Hello and welcome back to Our Life Beginnings and Always. We're in the middle of babysitting Derek's child brothers.
Phew.
That's it. I'm gonna be done with practice. I'm back. Welcome back. So you ready to go pro now? I'm not that good. Yet. Derek shook his head incredulously. The confidence in your voice had his cheeks flushing just as much as the exercise. See, here's embarrassed Derek. Remember in the last moment I was talking about how they could have just used embarrassed Derek sprite in that one part and they didn't? I just thought that was weird. This is why, because they have it right here. It's like, I don't know, but I could see him becoming a pro footballer when he gets older. Thanks for watching Jorge and Nicolas. I didn't mean for it to be so long. Hey, I finally get to be the big sibling. I think I feel like an old, tired parent now. I'm happy I could help you out. You owe me one. Hey, I finally get to be the big sibling. It was cool. The nonchalant way you put it like that was like it was a role to easily step in and out of had Derek laughing hard. As he collected himself, he rubbed the back of his neck. I'm glad I could lend you that for a while. Next, he shifted his attention over to his brothers. Jorge gave a little wave. He'd been waiting patiently for his big brother to wrap up his conversation with you. We're going back. Jorge simply got up, not needing any more guidance, while Derek kneeled in the grass to nudge Nicolas out of dreamland. A single eye cracked open at first, and then they both popped wide open when they realized who was with him. Derek's back! Nicolas sprang off the ground, wrapping his arms around his big brother like a vice grip nuzzled into his chest. Derek gave Nicolas' head a single pat.
Let's go.
Oh, that's my favorite Derek line. Yes. Practice was good today. Let's go home.
Let's go home.
Aww. Nicolas' hushed voice echoing his brother's put a warm smile on your face. Surveying the area made sure that nothing would be accidentally left behind. Then you breathed a sigh of relief. You made it through your first time solo babysitting. Oh, I know what I'm going to call this. I'm so excited. Although Derek was technically still nearby the whole time, so it wasn't completely solo. But you weren't bothered by that. Derek trusted you with his siblings, and they were both still in one piece. With your leadership, no one had got lost, injured, swallowed something they shouldn't have, or even declared that they hated you for eternity. So in your book, you'd say it went fairly well. Well, yeah, we just told Nicolas that his brother would like to hang out with you, too. Whoa! They did this! I forgot that we saw this already! The street! The city! Actually, you know what? I'm thinking now... Maybe this is San Francisco. No, they say it's Southern California later. It's probably, isn't there another? I hate to be unprofessional like this, but I have to be this person real quick. Holy crap. Yeah, there's, oh, you know, Santa Cruz is a bigger city too, isn't it? Huh. There's San Diego is down there too, yeah. That's what I thought, just south of Los Angeles. But I mean, Los Angeles is so big, right? But yeah, San Diego is down there too. I totally forgot that. I always get San Diego and Sacramento confused. San Diego would be fun to go to one day. They've got a really cool zoo and aquarium there, and SeaWorld. Anyway, but this street is in other moments later, and I just completely forgot it showed up here. The 15-minute walk back from the park passed by pleasantly. The late afternoon sun fell behind you, and your shadow soon stretched across the sidewalk. You wiggled your fingers and then exaggerated your hand's movement in order to watch the shadow change. Meanwhile, next to you, Derek was finally eating his lunch. Although he had to eat his sandwich with the hand Nicolas wasn't clasping tightly onto. Jorge entertained himself with the football he still carried. He periodically tossed it into the air and caught it again. You could easily imagine how often the three of them had made this trip before, with only the three of them, but you didn't feel out of place strolling alongside the group. It felt natural. Beaming, you found your gaze steadily on Derek again. You knew without a doubt that the way you felt was because of him. He was so good at making you feel welcome. Aw, he's supposed to be your childhood crush, but he's not. In time, he made it safely back, and Derek dropped his bag on the floor with a quiet sigh of relief. Any hope he'd had to take things easy for a second immediately evaporated.
We're going to the pool as soon as we come back.
Why is that fully voice acted? Also, let's listen to that again. Hang on. So, you know how in animes, They get women to voice little kids. Just take a look at this!
We're going to the pool as soon as we come back.
That's clearly a lady. I mean, that makes sense, because you're not going to get a little kid, but that almost sounds like she's like Tara Strong or something like that. Nicholas's joy was palpable, parroting back Derek's promise from earlier in the day. As the words dawned on him, Derek closed his eyes and breathed deeply. The thing is, this child is smarter than he appears. He just has the limitations of being 6. But he is devious and knows exactly what he's doing at all times to be his brother's shadow. Yep, we are. Get ready. And that was all the approval Nicholas and Jorge needed. They both dashed off to their shared bedroom to get changed. Okay, yeah, so they have to share a bedroom. I see. There's only 3 bedrooms in this place. Of course there is. That makes sense. Derek sluggishly opened his eyes, but his tiredness softened when he looked at you.
It's okay.
Practice is done. If you want to stay up here until your moms can come get you, that's cool. Derek gave a partial shrug and then ran a hand through his hair shyly. We don't have to go swimming again. So, I can imagine... Oh wait, they don't let you do that. Never mind, that's right. I was gonna say, wouldn't it be weird if you could just end this moment right here? But you don't get to do that. I've been having fun. I'm not mad about being here. You promised to get to go to the pool. I'm not gonna let you get outnumbered by Jorge and Nicholas. I don't want to be in here by myself. You shook your head at the terrible idea of staying behind. I've been having fun. I'm not mad about being here. No, this one, right? Well, you promised we get to go to the pool again. You put your hands on your hips and pouted. He laughed and raised his hands in self-defense. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that you knew you had options. No, Derek, we don't have options. You want to say we have options, but we don't have options. Look at Nicholas's swimsuit. Look at the freaking dinosaur swimsuit. Also, this kid's swimsuit's pretty cool, but it's clearly just getting like generic, like, you know, swimsuit parents bought him. Guys' swimsuits are generally so boring. Mine has lobsters all over it, okay, man? But they're generally just so boring and like plain colored and stuff. It wasn't much longer before the younger kids came running out to rejoin you and Derek. They both wore their neon-colored swimsuits and had towels wrapped around their shoulders. Family likes neon, I noticed.
Awesome.
They have neon towels and stuff. Nice job. You even remembered your floaty vest, Nicholas. Derek kneeled down to make sure the safety device was properly secured. Nicholas stood tall with his chest out proudly. He didn't fear the scrutinization. I did the straps for him. Perfect, thanks. Jorge brightened just as his younger brother had. Standing back up, Derek shifted his attention to you. Same quick change strategy from earlier? Yeah. You darted off to get changed first. Derek nodded seriously when you returned to take over for him. So, putting back on a wet swimsuit or wet clothing that you have to wear after changing out of it is god awful. He reemerged a couple minutes later and diligently went over to the counter to write something down. Curiously, he inched closer. So I can only imagine what that's like for girls. Because, especially if you wear like a one piece and it goes over your entire body and you have to squeeze your whole body back into that thing when it's wet. That would be horrid. Oh my god. It's bad enough having to put on like trunks after they're wet. Just gotta leave a note so Dad knows where we are, then we can go. Because like I said, when I was a kid, I practically lived in the water. I spent most of my life, my early childhood life, in and out of lakes and pools and things and stuff. And I was always wearing swim trunks and t-shirts and towels and such. It's what I love, it's what I do, and, you know, thinking about that. Yeah, anyway. So I'm very familiar with this kind of culture. Okay, sounds good. Everything was squared away as Derek was always sure to do. And the 4 of you marched right back out of the apartment for another excursion. This child is very, this man's is very, mature and organized to put together. I appreciate that. By the time the distinct smell of chlorine tickled your nose, the sun had fallen low in the sky. Here we are back at the pool at sundown. You circled around some nearby lounge chairs and deemed them capable of keeping your things safe. Inspecting the gleaming water, you noticed that Jorge and Nicholas hadn't moved towards the pool yet. Both of the little boys were watching Derek like hawks. That's a pretty good picture right there. Just saying. You picked up enough this afternoon to know it was because Jorge didn't want to do anything without permission, and Nicolas didn't want to do anything Derek wasn't doing.
I'm on it.
And Derek himself knew it too. He didn't keep them waiting. Derek offered his brothers an encouraging wave and strode over to the pool. You followed him into the water. You ran to beat him in. You ran nice and dry on solid land. You ran to beat him in. Breezing past Derek, you caught bits of a gasp and roaring laughter. You couldn't tell what sounds belonged to who before you threw yourself off the edge and crashed into the water. So, like, you know, I like this better where Nicolas is grinning and stuff. I love his whole thing he's got going on here. All the colors. You know, he's got some pinks and blues and some yellows on there. Maybe a little bit, you know, a little green too, but then pinks and blues and yellows. They all have different colored eyes too, which is interesting. You'd think they would all have similar eyes to their parents. I know the mom has Nicolas's eyes. I forget what color eyes the dad has. We'll have to pay attention. Seconds later, you felt the impact of another person piercing the water beside you, Derek. He stayed under while you went up for air. The other Suarez sons followed. Jorge jumped in without any hesitation, but Nicolas sped right to the edge only to come to an abrupt stop. His toes curled around the edge of the pool and lips were pressed in a tight frown. Nicolas tipped his head and stared down at the water, clutching his hands together. Yeah, he doesn't swim, right? He's only little. He was scared to jump. Nicolas would rather the pool come the rest of the way to him, but it wasn't being a good sport. When me and my brother were little, though, I was afraid of water until I was fairly older, actually, because I almost drowned as a young kid, and that terrified me. I had to take special lessons to learn how to swim. My brother was good at just jumping in and being like the Jorge of the group here. Derek and Jorge popped out of the water with matching wide grins, droplets clinging to the tips of their hair. Neither were surprised that they were missing their baby brother. Yeah, that was the thing. I talk about how I lived around, like, water my whole life, but when I was younger, I never liked to swim, like, real little. I was always kind of afraid of water. I didn't do things like be on inner tubes or behind boats and stuff like that. And, like, I like to be in boats, and I like to swim and be around water, but usually really close to shore and stuff. I never went onto deep water. I still don't really like deep water, but I would probably be more brave these days. And I've also had a near hypothermia, you know, a boat. I've been in a boat capsizing experience before with water. So, you know, a lot of stuff has happened to Holly around water. But that's just what happens when you live around water, right? All right. Okay. That was awesome. Nicolas's cry for help came out in a tiny impatient squeak. He began wiggling in place. Derek chuckled and swam over to a shallower spot. The 6-year-old followed closely, toddling along the edge. When his feet touched the pool's solid bottom, Derek stood up. He kindly held his arms out towards his brother.
This is gonna be great.
Come on, Nico. The water's fine. Trusting him completely, Nicolas let go of his fear. He took a step over the side and walked into his favorite person's hold. Derek embraced Nicolas as he dropped against his chest. Then Derek slowly lowered him closer to the water before he completely let his little brother go. Nicolas bobbed under with a small splash and broke out again in an instant like a buoy. He was bursting at the seams with excitement. Oh, he let him jump in the shallow end. Nicolas made the most of his new floating freedom by dog paddling around the shallow end. Checking on Jorge, you noticed that he was sticking to the center of the pool. He bounced himself from the floor to the surface for air and then pushed back down to do it all over again. He leapt around all around in a circle. Derek rested an arm across the pool's edge and took a moment to watch his brothers too. You swam over to Derek and settled against the wall with him. You closed your eyes and sighed. The water's temperature was pleasantly warm against the cooling evening air. Derek kept his main focus on his family, though he spared a moment to tilt his head in your direction. A few beads of water trailed from his hairline down the side of his jaw. Babysitting went as well as you thought, huh? Even better, probably. They were both really good. Neither of them bit me or anything. All the dog jokes and stuff. Perfect.
Honestly,
My brothers are fun, some of the time. He chuckled at his own joke and ran a damp hand down his face to try getting at least some of the water off. The final rays of sunlight cast a warm glow on his skin, and the pool sparkled as he finally turned his attention directly towards you. Derek's mouth turned into his usual wonderful smile. I don't know what I'd do without them. I think they're great. You sound like a proud dad. Well, Jorge is good, but Nicolas is trouble with a capital T. I think Nicolas is way cuter than all the other Suarez's. You nodded. You shrugged. Oh, we gotta do this one. We gotta do that one, right? We gotta tease him. His nose wrinkled as surprise morphed into an infectious laugh that pulled you in too. He smirked. I'm not really sure what to say to that because you're probably right. Wow! Jorge and Nicolas remained engrossed with their own watery adventures, while you and Derek kicked track of them. You were sure in mid-conversation when the sound of footsteps echoed off the wall surrounding the pool. Derek shot an arm out the water and waved at the newcomer. Dad!
Good evening.
Oh, he's got the green... Oh, he's got yellowish eyes like Jorge. Yeah, so Derek having green eyes is unique then. Interesting. Dad! Dad? All the Suarez boys eagerly paddled over to the end of the pool where their father stood. They moved together in the water with their heads beside each other and their legs kicked out behind them like a pile of seal pups.
Welcome home.
Thank you.
Jorge. Mr. Suarez's voice was sweet as he observed his children's happy faces. Eventually he spotted you as well and he tucked his fingers to the edge of his vest with vigor. Oh, this is a pool party today. You know, a party should have the proper food. Let's order pizza for dinner tonight. Yeah! Yeah! Laughing with excitement. I don't know why I did the Italian voice for pizza, jeez. Laughing with excitement, Nicolas started smacking the palms of his hands against the water surface, making several bursting splashes. Jorge flicked droplets from the tips of his fingers at Nicolas in retaliation. Chuckling over the scene, Mr. Suarez brought a hand up and held onto his chin. He scratched at his beard with his thumb. Half cheese, half pepperoni for the first, correct? Yes! Pepperoni! That needed to be voice acted, okay. I want to hear this thing shout pepperoni. Nicolas threw both his arms in the air as he cheered. Mr. Suarez nodded, pleased his littlest one still had predictable taste.
Wonderful.
Okay, meat and veggie supreme for Irene and I on the second. Irene? I missed that before. He's Gregorio. And she's Irene. So here's a question. Well, no, their name is Suarez. It's very, something. It's very Spanish origin, right? But they might, I don't know, I wonder, I'm fascinated about racial stuff, about ethnicity stuff more. I don't know, man. I also just noticed the big stadium lights for the pool. He said with his gaze on Derek and you for the final decision. Suggestions for what the final half should be? Marina, you pick. You floated over closer to Derek as you thought about it. We get to pick our pizza. Could I get something other than pizza? Man. I'll give y'all a second out there to guess at what Marina's gonna pick. I like the Derek, what do you normally get? And you left it up to Derek, but no, she's that type of person. Da 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 da. Hawaiian. Derek gave you a big thumbs up for that.
So,
In full, half cheese, half pepperoni, half supreme, and half Hawaiian.
Yeah.
Thank you, children. I'll put the order in now. I'll come back to let you know when it's ready, but until then, continue to play. Thanks, Dad. Bye.
Thank you.
That was way too polite, Nicolas. You don't sound like a 6-year-old. Bye, I'll be waiting. I'll be waiting! Mr. Suarez closed the pool gate behind him, leaving your kids to your fun. In Mr. Suarez's absence, Derek charted again. Alright, you heard it. Dad's ordering pizza, so it'll be here in like 30 minutes. So think fast. What's the last thing you want to do before we have to leave the pool? Nicolas furrowed his brow, thinking as hard as he could. He scrunched his face together in frustration when nothing came to mind. Meanwhile, Jorge put a hand to his chin and tilted his head to the side. He stared up and off into space as he considered the question. You left it open for the younger kids to decide. When they were distracted, you made the first strike in a splash fight. The younger Suarez brothers may have been unsure or overwhelmed with how they wanted to spend the remaining pool time, but you weren't. You knew exactly what you wanted to do. You suddenly angled your position in the water, carefully deciding your plan of attack. The corner of your mouth bent, and you flung a mighty splash toward Derek. He ended up with a face full of water and sputtered before shaking it off. Oh, that's the worst, though, because it's chlorinated pool water. Oh, man. I hate getting that in my face so much, and hair. Getting that smell off when you shower. As he regained his composure, Derek brushed a hand down his face again to wipe some droplets away. Marina, I'm sure you're aware of what this means. Derek stared narrowed with a fierce, amused look of determination. You matched it and gave an odded slow nod. I believe I do.
It's odd.
This means war. He swiftly sent a shot of water in your direction. Nicholas cackled at your exchange, and he started to excitedly beat the water's surface and sent droplets crashing in all directions. You twisted away from their attacks, and the second the water settled, you struck. Pushing your hands forward, you sent another big wave crashing towards the brothers. Derek sent splashes of both hands on each of his sides, juggling you and Nicholas. Nicholas pooled water, cupping it in his hands. He threw it into the air. The droplets carelessly poured down on everyone. Nicholas was dangerous in this fight. He was willing to take a hit to get hit. Out of the four of you, Jorge enacted the best defense strategy. He took a deep breath and held it while he slid under the water. Only his hands remained at the surface, and they rapidly splashed in all directions. Wow, what a smart kid! Jorge's strategy kept you all on your toes in order to avoid his scatter shot. Whenever he came up for air, Derek made sure to be ready to take the shot. It was a grand battle. The four of you thoroughly enjoyed your time at the pool. It flew by so fast that you were surprised when you spotted Mr. Suarez cruising down the water's edge once more. Dinner's here, and even better, Mom's home. Yay! The youngest Suarez threw his wet confetti into the air one more time. Even his dad wasn't safe from it. Mr. Suarez took it in stride and wiped his glasses against his vest. Derek was out of breath, but he beamed. This man does not strike me as someone who works at a surf shop with frickin' Cove's dad. He must be like the accountant or something like that. Do all the hard technical stuff on the business running stuff. He seems like a businessman type. Let's go get some food. Not that I don't think Cliff couldn't run a business. Cliff is plenty responsible, right? Yeah. Mr. Suarez led the way to the apartment. Yeah, it is an apartment. It's a condo apartment, yeah. And the four of you kids marched with eager spring in your step. Despite being wrapped in towels, you dripped water all the whole way there. Yeah, so this is interesting that their family lives in an apartment. The savory smell of hot cheese and garlic crust was there to greet you when you arrived at the door. Man, I have a pizza for lunch and I'm gonna make it after this. I'm so excited for that. You could hear the musical words of Mrs. Suarez, too. I like Supreme... Welcome home. So I didn't talk about pizza earlier when I was picking. I like Hawaiian pizza just fine, and barbecue chicken pizza just fine, but I'm always a sucker for a good Supreme. Give me them green peppers and onions and pepperoni and sausage and mushrooms and maybe black olives, and now you got a good pizza, right? Then you have all the ingredients to make it a pizza. Hi. Hi, Mom.
Hi.
Feeling a bit awkward and out of place, you gave a tiny wave. Mrs. Suarez didn't miss it, and her voice softened as she spoke to you first. Hello, Marina. I hope you had fun today. I did. We had lots of fun.
That's great.
Mrs. Suarez then went out of over to the kitchen where the food was set in the counter. She popped up the boxes open and delightedly glanced at her husband. Glanced over at her husband. This was such a good idea. Thank you. Mr. Suarez dipped his head in a tiny bow. He followed that by gesturing a hand towards the food.
Well then.
Come get dinner. Youngest to oldest order. Despite the order given, it was no surprise that Jorge was the one who moved first. He figured Nicholas would wait for Derek, even if he didn't have to. Jorge tore off a paper towel from the roll and used it to grab a slice of plain cheese pizza. He hot-footed back over to the entryway, standing there so he wouldn't bring water any further into the apartment. You can go next, Marina. It'll be easier that way. The food smelled even better up close. You grabbed a slice of cheese, you grabbed a slice of... Yeah, we picked the Hawaiian. Why would we eat anything else? You hurried back over to the entryway with your dinner. Derek went next, tiptoeing over with Nicholas at his heels. Also, for those of you who are watching this and don't know what Hawaiian pizza is, it contains the simple ingredients: ham, onions, sometimes jalapeno peppers, and everyone's favorite pizza topping, pineapple. So take that! Take that! I'm one of those people. Take that. He grabbed a slice of pepperoni and passed it to Nicholas. Derek then grabbed a slice of pepperoni for himself, but instead of going to the entryway, he went to an open space on the floor. You liar, you didn't want the Hawaiian at all. You're one of those people that don't like pineapple on pizza. He curiously watched as Derek laid his towel on the floor and sat down on it, crossing his legs. Nicholas plopped down on the towel right next to him and stared at one of his pizza crust corners. You decided to stay standing with Jorge? You decided to sit down on your towel instead. I'll stay standing with Jorge. You didn't mind eating on your feet. But you also didn't give yourself much time to think about it. Taking a big mouthful, you focused on filling your belly instead. Finally, Mr. and Mrs. Suarez got their slices of pizza. They stood in the living room in between their spots the sons had taken.
So?
How did you spend your day while we were out? We did lots of things. In between taking big bites of pizza, the Suarez family started taking turns telling stories about their day. Nicholas recounted the events of the day with the most enthusiasm. Even though they were the same plot points from his brother's stories and the ones you witnessed firsthand, from his perspective the events were almost mythically amazing. Storytelling was hungry work, so the slices didn't last long at all. The food was chipped away piece by piece until everyone was stuffed. I typically only eat like 2 slices of pizza, though, unless it's a small pizza. Don't know what stuffing yourself. Nicholas lay down on the floor, limbs stretched out and still wrapped in his towel. He was completely tuckered from the day. Mr. Suarez plucked him off the floor and held him under one arm. Bath time! Come on, Junior!
Yes, Dad.
Nicholas accepted his fate and his arms hung limply down. Jorge crumpled up his paper towel into a ball and tossed it in the trash. He followed his dad. So he's Gregorio. Is Jorge short for that? Because it's kind of... I wonder. I don't know how those the Spanish root names work. Latin names work. That's an interesting thought.
Thank you.
Yeah, Gregorio. Mrs. Suarez watched them go with a gentle affection in her gaze. She patted her husband's shoulder as she passed by and then strolled over to you and Derek. And thank you for a good day's work. I appreciate you both taking care of Nicholas and Jorge today. Her cheeriness reminded you so much of Derek. She pointed with her thumb over her shoulder. Dad and I will take them from here. Thanks, Mom. You can see the wave of relief wash over him as clearly as the actual water you just swam in. I'll keep an ear out for the phone. Pamela said she'd call when they're on their way to get Marina. Okay. After that, Mrs. Suarez excused herself to go help get Jorge and Nicholas ready for bedtime. When she disappeared down the hall, Derek leaned back on the palms of his hands. He lazily rolled his head in your direction.
Hey.
We can get dressed again, then. Would you want to hang out in my room until your mom gets here? Sounds like a plan to me. You can get changed first. So this is the whole, like, heavy part of the we actually get to talk to Derek a little bit. It's kind of interesting. He stretched his legs out on the floor while you stood up. You could feel a slight ache in your mouth. When did I sit down? I was always standing, wasn't I? Huh, you could feel a slight ache in your muscles from today's activity. It wasn't bad. You'd given your all during babysitting adventure. Gathering your things up in your arms, you left to get changed. It wasn't long before you and Derek went over to his room for some sibling-less free time. I can't understand how they could stand there in wet clothing and eat pizza. This house is full of wet people. How can you just stand there and eat pizza? Derek's room. Look at this. You got trophies. You got an 8-track player. Or that's a cassette player, not an 8-track player. He's got all his sports stuff. Lots of books because he's a reader. He's got a little bobblehead guy here even. Nice and cozy. I like this movie poster with the mountains and stuff. Eric opened his bedroom door and gestured for you to lead the way. He went in while he followed behind, shutting the door behind once more. Your eyes widened as you scanned the small space. Usually you were outside when you hung out with Derek, so this was the first time you'd been inside his room. Within reach of his neatly made bed was a bookshelf filled with novels. Various scattered soccer balls and footballs stuck out around the books and furniture. Things weren't arranged and organized with the same care Derek put into most things he did. If there was more time, you were sure there were tons of more trinkets and treasures to spot here, like a small game of I Spy. It wasn't big, but Derek made the most of his small piece of the world. That's what I was kind of saying earlier. Yeah, if we really spent time looking at it, I bet you there's lots of cool things we could see here. Your room is cool. There are a lot of footballs and soccer balls in here. You sure you have enough soccer balls and footballs? He felt nervous being there. This is amazing. Your room's cool.
Really?
Bashful, Derek scratched the side of his neck. He cheerfully watched you look over his things until it clicked. Whoa, we never hung out in my room before, huh? Nope, it's the first time. That's kind of weird to think about.
Sorry.
But anyway, sorry, I don't have any chairs in here. You could sit in my bed if you want. Don't worry, there's tons of places to sit in the living room, so this balances things out. Derek chuckled at that. Still, he felt a bit awkward and rubbed the back of his neck. Thanks for offering your bed, though. You stayed standing. You sat on the edge of the mattress. You laid down across his bed. You sighed loudly, letting yourself melt into the cozy blankets. Derek crossed his arms and laughed loudly. Sure, get comfortable. You playfully propped yourself up on your elbow and rested your chin in the palm of your hand. Derek crossed over the foot of his bed and sat there on the end of it, his jaw stretched open in a huge yawn that he quickly covered with his hand.
Good job, team.
Phew, we're finally done. There was no missing the proud satisfaction burning in his green eyes, but you could also consequently see the places where he was wilting. Sometimes you kind of worried about how he threw himself wholeheartedly into things all the time. So I'm kind of like Derek. I have to admit that I kind of understand how this man's works. I'm not athletic, again, like I said, but I am kind of like this in that I just throw myself into, at least when I was younger, and I guess when I'm around people, I always try to people please and make sure everybody's having the most fun, and make sure everything is perfect and organized and cleaned up and everyone's taken care of. I wasn't really like that as much as a kid, but you know, I was responsible at least. It was nice spending the day babysitting. How often do you babysit? I'm glad that's over. I hope it was at least helpful today. Derek, don't ask me to watch those kids again, you teased. You nodded along with the words. It was nice spending the day babysitting. His expression softened fondly as he silently studied your face. Chewing at your bottom lip, you were unsure of what he was thinking. You had meant what you said. I'm really glad that today worked out. My brothers were happy too. Derek stretched his arms high in the air and yawned again. His eyelids drooped as he turned towards you. Yeah, he'll hear it from Nicholas about how he felt. Gradually, the carefree warmth faded from his demeanor. His face fell into a quiet frown and his hands had returned to his lap.
You don't have to.
You're gonna have to do it again, Marina. Whether it's a good time or a bad time, it's just a lot of time, and you have your own things to deal with. Your brows bent at that, tilting your head. You couldn't help but think about how much of Derek's days went to his brothers. It definitely didn't seem to match how things were with you and your sister and you. And he gives all for his family, right? But then, as if summoned by your thoughts about him, the bedroom door creaked open just enough to let a giggling Nicholas slip in, threw his hands in the air. I'm dressed! With a loud thud, the door swung fully open and Jorge marched in with an extremely annoyed scowl. He put his hands in his hips. You sprung up and kicked your legs over the side of the mattress. Lazing on the bed wasn't on the schedule anymore. Nicholas, we were playing in the living room, not Derek's room. Jorge reached for his younger brother, but Nicholas scurried up onto the bed. He warily peeked at Jorge from behind Derek's shoulder. Derek notably didn't say a single word, nor did he appear surprised about the intrusion at all. The only movement he made was a light pat in the mess of hair on Nicholas's head, like usual. What wasn't usual was the distant look on his face. He'd accepted the reality at hand, but did not welcome it. Mr. and Mrs. Suarez crowded into the room next.
Excuse us.
Sorry, Derek. He just slipped away in a flash.
Yeah.
No more.
Come on, Nicholas. Let Derek and Marina have some peace. The youngest Suarez suddenly clung onto Derek's arm. His cheeks popped out angrily. Nicholas, go hang out with Mom and Dad. Don't you want to see them too? They've missed you today. Don't you want to see Mom and Dad too? Come on, Derek! Yeah, this child will not let his brother go. Nicholas loosened his grip as he shifted to get a better look at his big brother. Derek sighed spiritlessly. Imagine what it's like when Derek goes to school. Just let that sink in for a minute. I do, but I have a friend over right now. I'll spend time with Mom and Dad and you later. Nicholas bent forward and grasped Derek's pant leg. He brought out the big guns and stared at him up with his most pitiful eyes and a matching pout. You know, Derek does what he's supposed to do. You can be like that now, Nicholas. Don't be sad. It's been a happy day. Well, I'm not surprised this happened. You sank down feeling awkward about the situation. You rubbed your eyes in frustration. This one. As your focus shifted over to you in surprise, but the one you were focused on was the youngest Suarez. All focus shifted over to you in surprise, but the one you were focused on was the youngest Suarez. Silently, he met your stare, and you could tell that he was mulling over your words. I know you can do it. For a second, you had a glimmer of hope that you could fix things for Derek, but at the moment passed, Nicholas still didn't budge from his spot. His grasp only tightened.
End of discussion.
Nicholas, we're reading a story right now. I like the angry mom look. She has the stare down, man. Nicholas angrily shook his head as he advanced across the room. She unapologetically peeled her smallest child off Derek. The youngest boy let out a high-pitched whine for the entire extraction. Jorge frowned sympathetically over the confrontation while Derek winced at the noise. When the deed was done, the middle son followed his mom out of the room. You could still hear Nicholas' piercing cry as he was carried away. I'm very sorry about the interruption. Continue as you were. None of us were ever here. He gave both of you an encouraging smile before carefully shutting the door again. It was finally silent. Derek kept an eye out until he honestly believed that he wouldn't immediately be another sibling disaster. When he deemed it safe, he let out a quick sigh and then attempted to choke back a harsher groan. Derek flopped on his back against the mattress with another huff and stretched his arms out of his side. His arms twitched and his fingers curled into fists. So you really get to see what he really thinks here. It's hard. Wait. I went back. There's never any privacy here. How am I still having to deal with things even after spending the whole day with them? You held your tongue, waiting patiently for him to get it all out. Derek muttered grievances under his breath with a harsh glare aimed at the ceiling for a good minute and screwed his mouth shut. It's hard being an older sibling. I was one. I'm sorry, Derek. I think you've done a really good job with everything. It's definitely rough. And I thought Elizabeth could be difficult to deal with. At least your brothers don't think they're the boss like Elizabeth. You didn't know what to say. We're not bad-mouthing our cool older sister, even if she is kind of a brat now. I think you've done a really good job with everything. He didn't respond, but you witnessed the bulk of his anger gradually fade from his brow before he attempted to look in your direction. And when he did, you saw the sparks of his usual vibrancy. It gradually returned as he held your gaze. You were thankful that your presence seemed to help bring him back to feeling himself again. I mean it. I know you do. Thanks, Marina. Evening his breath, Derek folded his arms across his chest and squeezed his eyelids shut. You could tell by the tension in his face that he was still bothered. He was thinking hard, searching for something.
Man.
I can make this work. His low mumble was followed by a pause that had you intrigued. And then he jumped forward so that he was sitting upright. The grin you were so used to seeing was back in full force. Marina, want to go back to the pool? Nobody's going to be there this late, and my bros are not going to be able to leave the house. We don't have to get in or even change clothes. I think it'd just be kind of a nice place to talk and that sort of thing. They really want to get the most out of that pool area because they're never going to have it another moment. Avoiding your gaze, Derek nervously rubbed the back of his head. You couldn't tell exactly. He was trying his hardest to be nonchalant, but he wasn't exactly succeeding. I like the way you think. All right. Derek leapt to his feet and turned, holding out a hand for you to take. Chuckling, you gripped his hand tightly. Derek squeezed you back and helped you pull to your feet. Let's go. The door slowly creaked open as Derek peeked out. Double-checking that the coast actually was clear, he gave you a thumbs up. I don't see Nicholas. I think we're good. You returned his thumbs up, silently hoping this wasn't the calm before the storm. Derek led you into the living room, where you found his dad and Jorge sitting together on the couch. Hello, Mom has Nicholas in his room, enraptured in another exciting session of story time. Good. Marina and I were going to go down to the pool area to hang out. Is that okay?
Of course.
He chuckled, knowing exactly what Derek was trying to accomplish. Jorge... What's Derek trying to accomplish? Jorge was perfectly happy where he was with his dad, so he waved goodbye to you both. Don't keep Marina out too late. I won't, thanks, Dad. Derek whispered with complete confidence. You gave your appreciation in an equally hushed tone. Yeah, Marina's the one who runs around outside in the dark by herself on Cove. Thank you, Mr. Suarez. The last thing either of you wanted was to alert the youngest Suarez that anything fun was happening without his knowledge. So you both silently slipped out of the apartment. Once you were free from the condo's walls, Derek's excitement was palpable. He picked up the pace and raced to the pool gate. I forgot that there was so much more to this. This is going to be a long one, and I apologize. I could have let the other one go at least to the pool moment, I guess. Look at this at night, though. Oh my god. It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. Wow. They must live in like one of these ones over here with they have this. You can't see theirs, obviously, but Or I always kind of assume they're towards the back picture where you can't see. For the third time in a single day, you and Derek stepped foot onto the condo complex private pool deck, but you soon realized you hadn't seen everything it had to offer yet. Under the cover of night, the pool was completely aglow with lights set into the bottom. The bright blue struck you as inviting breaths of steam drifted off the top of the water, whispering how warm it was. I love when hotels have outdoor pools like this. And I'm out of water. That's bad. The closed-in space was clear of any other people, and it had been like that for a while considering the stillness of the pool. Not a single ripple disrupted its aquamarine surface. Here you'd have peace and privacy. Derek was drawn to the water like a moth to a flame. He wordlessly rolled up his jeans and tugged off his sneakers and socks and dunked his feet right into the pool up to the middle of his calf. He stretched and wiggled his bare toes in the comfortable embrace of the heated pool on a summer night. You joined Jarek at the edge. Heated pool? We thought it was cold earlier. I guess we were, I don't know. Maybe it's heated at night. And you dipped your feet in as well. I love this. I love dipping my feet in at the pool. You removed your own shoes and let your feet soak into the pool. Marina would do that too, of course. It was as pleasant as the sparkling appearance promised. The water had none of a slight chill that the air did. It was the perfect amount of heat. Slight chill? Really? Southern California in the summertime? I don't believe you. Derek wrapped both his hands around the smooth tile edge and tilted his back. One of his legs kicked up his back, drifted down like his upper lower body were each at one side of a seesaw. He grinned playfully at you. So, I'm guessing maybe it does. Maybe the ocean has that kind of breezes and stuff that keep it cooler around some of the beachside towns. I've never spent that much time there.
But
So what were we talking about? So like in I was there in like the late summer, I guess, fall, and it was cooler. So I don't remember. Well, you were saying you couldn't manage to put any words together on the spot. Well, you were saying that you liked having my help, but it wasn't my job to watch your brothers, and I didn't have to do it again.
oh,
Yeah. He solemnly brought his torso back up until he was hunched over in the water. He stared down at it, all his lightheartedness had disappeared in an instant. Things were already kind of a bummer before they got interrupted. That sucks. There wasn't any heart in it, but Derek managed to chuckle. Sorry for making my problems your problems. He dug his finger into the side of his hair, scratching at it in frustration.
it doesn't matter.
I don't even know what my problem is. They came in the room for 5 seconds. I'm so dramatic. Derek, that's not dramatic, and it wasn't the only thing that happened today. Nicholas is dramatic. You're mild, you joked. You deal with a lot of problems. It annoyed me that I don't even live here. You leaned closer to show you were here to listen. Nicholas is dramatic. You're mild. Yeah. Derek crossed his arms tight and pushed them against the top of his legs. The blue water rippled around him as his legs moved against the pool wall. He pressed his heels into it. The pressure that had been only on the inside was coming out. It's just, the thing is, Nicholas and Jorge need me all the time, and my parents need me because they need me. I don't want to let them down, I really don't, but it's hard. Every day it's like I'm gonna mess up and disappoint somebody. He bit his tongue and released his limbs from the locked positions they'd been stuck in. He couldn't scrub the furrow away from his brows. I've never babysat, but I've been a camp counselor for younger kids. And lately I've been getting to spend time with younger children more, a lot. And, yeah, it's like this. I feel for this man. I can't imagine what it'd be like to have to be the responsible sibling all the time, though. I never had to do that. My brother kind of did his own thing. He wasn't attached to me at the hip or anything like that.
Forget it.
Everyone has stuff to worry about. It's not just me. Mom has to take care of them way more than I do, and Dad works a job pretty much the entire day. I admire you. You don't have to brush yourself off. Your family's lucky to have you. So what if they do things too? You still deserve to be happy. It's not fair of you to think that. For you to think that. He placed a supportive hand on his shoulder. It's not fair for you to think that.
I don't know.
He went silent, unmoved. Nicholas was the one who caused the trouble, but somehow Derek had made himself to be the bad guy. It was upsetting, but Derek wasn't anywhere close to really being grown up. Of course, he couldn't be perfect, even though he acted like he thought he should be. Derek, remember when your dad first came to the pool and you and Jorge and Nicholas were all so excited? You were just like your brothers. Even if you're in charge sometimes, you're still your parents' kid. You don't have to act like an adult, especially not with me. Finally, slowly and carefully, Derek dared to glance at you again. Thanks, Marina, for saying all that. His shoulders squished inward to frame his lowered head. He looked so much like a hopeful puppy that he could give even Nicholas a run for his money in the adorable face department.
Was it annoying?
It really doesn't bother you that I complain and sometimes hanging out with me means helping out with 2 other kids? For all the confidence Derek displayed when the push came to shove, he was pretty insecure about himself and what you thought of him. I wonder why he'd care what you thought of him. Not at all, complain away. As long as you don't mind dealing with Elizabeth when you visit me. That's right. Derek, I love hanging out with you no matter what. I'll babysit as many times as you need. He nodded seriously. Derek showed his full face to you. It was all lit up by the light shining through the water. The smile on his face was just as glittering.
Well,
I don't ever want to be a pain, but it's really cool to have a friend who doesn't mind listening to me and being here. He didn't say that lightly. He only wanted to let himself be there for you. And everyone else. Being somebody Derek could count on was special. You wouldn't let him down. Then his eyebrows furrowed mischievously, and just like that, he catapulted right off the tile and into the edge of the pool. You gasped as if you were the one who suddenly got plunged underwater. I could not do this! My god, getting your clothes wet is a... Oh, like, I don't mind the rain, but I would never jump in a pool unless there was no other options. I've swam in clothes before when there was no other options, and I've taken courses in Boy Scouts on how to, like, turn your clothes into, like, a flotation device, and that involves going in the pool with clothes on. But I hate it. Remember I was talking earlier about not being able to get in and out of a swimsuit wet. Imagine wet clothes. And this is what we have to go home in. We don't have a change of clothes beyond this. Derek burst to the surface with a loud gasping laugh. The water's great. How wonderful. You were way too impulsive times. Are you okay? You broke out in laughter. You shook your head at Derek's spontaneous swim. Are you gonna get in trouble? How wonderful. Yep. Everything's
great.
Sorry,
This is gonna be great.
Everything's gonna be good, Marina. I'm not an adult! That was true. You pushed yourself right off the side of the pool after him. You carefully lowered yourself from the ledge. You splashed Derek from the ground. You watched him No. I complained about it, but this is Marina. In an instant, you were hit with an explosion of bubbles and you sank down into the water. You waited until you felt the pool floor, then kicked off and popped your head out of the water. Woo! Derek pumped both his fists in the air. His black wristband drooped further over his arm, heavy from being soaked. Wait, he has, like, cloth? He does. I thought they were. I didn't know they were cloth, that they could get water, but they are. The two of you padded through the water together, and the added weight of your clothes had you both winded pretty quickly. That only amused Derek more. Laughter and sloshing water brought the once stagnant pool to life. You and Derek still had the place to yourself and made the absolute most of it. Yeah, why does no one else who lives in this complex use this pool? But eventually Derek crawled up the stairs out of the pool. His baggy clothes poured out many waterfalls with every step he took on land. Derek looked especially tiny with his drenched jersey draped over his frame. He waited there at the top of the steps for you to catch up, being dripping gentleman he was. You held the rail with each step up the stairs. You felt the weight of your soaked clothes pressing down on you more. You got a thumbs up from Derek when you made it out. Then he carefully tipped his head to the side and tapped his hands against his ears to get the water out. So we have fully, like, wet Derek now. I think we had that water balloon fight, though, too. Yeah, oh yeah, those are, like, cloth wristbands. For some reason, I thought they weren't before, but now I'm seeing it. Now that I'm seeing it.
Well,
Alright, time to face the music. Having you go home dampened Derek's mood more than the water on his body. He couldn't do anything here in the wide open pool with you as his only companion. Going back to his family came with countless expectations and responsibilities, but it still had to be done. Yeah. He gave a small nod, readying yourself for whatever might happen when you arrived at the Suarez condo. Without another word, you collected your shoes and you left the little oasis behind. The two of you walked side by side. You held each other's hands. No, she's not that romantic with Derek. When you made it to the front door, Derek used the key from his pocket to open it. He hadn't forgotten to bring it, despite leaving it under rushed, uneasy circumstances. I'm assuming they have, like one of those, like, outdoor hallways leading to the... I've never been to, like, a fancy condo like this. Derek stood there in front of the unlocked door, just staring at it. Practical preparation was his forte. Making himself ready for bumps in the relationships was not. You didn't do anything wrong, Derek. You got nothing to feel bad about. They do. Remember that. Yeah. He took a huge breath through his nose and turned the knob. The living room was quiet when you went inside. Jorge and Mr. Suarez had moved on to the kitchen and were busy putting together a puzzle. Mr. Suarez's shoulders blocked your view, so you couldn't see what the picture was supposed to be. Mrs. Suarez and Nicolas were nowhere in sight. You guessed they were still in the younger boy's bedroom. It was strange not to have someone cheer and shout when Derek walked through the door. Derek's back! There was a feeling of absence. We're back. A dinosaur story. He announced himself with an absolute lack of enthusiasm. He might as well have been calling off bingo numbers to an empty room. Mr. Suarez lifted his head and turned to face both of you. At the same time, he eagerly pushed his chair away from the counter.
I see.
Thank you for coming home. The greeting he gave was so normal that it was weird, considering how you and Derek each brought a bucket full of water absorbed into your clothes. I think they're just used to water being all over their floor. They do have hardwood floors, after all. This is probably fine. Actually, is this hardwood, or this is probably that fake laminate stuff that looks like wood? It's an apartment condominium. I doubt they have actual wood floors. Jorge offered a typical family greeting of his own, not taking his eyes off the puzzle. He was either focused or avoiding the awkwardness. I was more of a Jorge when I was a kid. Just saying.
Welcome back.
Oh, that's cute. Thank you for that. Derek silently poked a... That's a boy. That's not a girl doing that, I think. Derek silently poked a big bare toe on the prickly entryway doormat. The mess Derek's foot was making was too much for the little mat to contain. Water leaked out from the edges. Derek's attempt to face his family was going equally smooth. The bright pleasantries in Mr. Suarez's face softened into warmth. He followed through in the motion and got out of his chair. He crossed the living room to stand with the two of you at the front door. My hard-working son is always in demand. Our family needs to learn how to share, especially Nicholas. The last part was said with a little chuckle. Derek didn't smile from the compliment, but he did start to blush.
Excuse me.
A new voice came from the hall. Mrs. Suarez stood there with her hands in her hips. Peeking out from behind the skirt of her dress was a distinct spiky nest of brown hair. Now that you're here, someone has something he wants to say to his big brother. Her words got Jorge to actually turn away from the puzzle and watch the scene. But Nicolas remained hidden. Her encouragement wasn't enough. As always, he was waiting for Derek. He didn't need to tell Derek that, though. He knew it was far better than you. He knew it far better than you. He shifted his weight in his feet and gave Nicolas an invitation.
Okay.
What did you want to say? Nicolas darted out from behind his mom with enough speed to flutter her dress. His tiny feet thundered over the floor until he came to an abrupt stop right in front of his favorite person. He had to lean his head all the way back to look at Derek's eyes. Derek looked down and meet the gaze. Nicolas resisted the urge to hug him and instead clutched at the collar of his own shirt.
I'm sorry.
That's your room. From how much Nicolas struggled to explain his apology, it was obvious that he wasn't at a point where he understood why being together at all times was wasn't a completely fantastic idea. And that had gotten him through. All that had gotten through was the fact that he'd upset his brother, and he had in turn upset him. Nicolas bit his lip and moved his hands to pull up the bottom of his shirt instead of the top. As best he could come up with next was simply repeating himself.
Sorry.
Derek's lips quirked just a bit as he patiently listened to his little brother. You should say sorry to her too. Marina helped you a lot today too. Nicholas instantly twisted his head towards you and echoed the word. He was very serious. Sorry, Marina. Thank you, Nicholas. No worries. I appreciate that you apologized. You smiled at him. You had to look away out of shyness. Thank you, Nicholas. Nicholas hopped up on the pads of his feet and a nervous but hopeful energy came over him. Your reaction was the first positive sign he'd gotten. The smallest Suarez glanced between you and Derek unsurely. He let his shirt go and balled his hands into fists. I'm sorry, Derek. I'm sorry, Marina. Nicholas put everything he had into willing whatever problem he'd caused into being fixed and he'd caused to be fixed and into people not feeling bad anymore. The emotional display of regret moved someone in the room to speak.
I'm sorry.
Derek snorted a laugh at the unexpectedness of the interjection. What did you even do? I don't know. That was a girl. Never mind. There's a girl doing that voice too. The middle child looked down at the puzzle in front of him again, but he was staring through the pieces as if they weren't there. He murmured just barely loud enough to hear from where you were standing. You and Marina had to watch me today too. Derek's hesitancy completely crumbled, and his usual familial dynamic came back in full force.
Aww.
Jorge, you don't have to apologize for that. I like to have some time by myself or with my friends, but I'd never want to stop having my little bros. Nicholas' massively wide eyes sparkled. For the first time since they were reunited, he carefully reached out to Derek and gripped his soaking wet jeans. Derek reached down to gently pat his baby brother's head as he did, probably every day. Neither boy cared that this time the hand was damp. Instead, they both smiled at the other, with unwavering affection. No matter what fissions had happened, it was inevitable that they would end that way, because they both loved their family, equally and deeply. Another person took a turn to cut in as Mr. Suarez spoke up with vigor.
Let's race.
Derek, Marina, let's race! What? Derek chuckled at your confusion and switched his head pat into a full-on hair ruffle. Nicholas grinned excitedly along with his brother. Yeah, I forgot all this happens in this moment. I'm so sorry for this super long video. Dad is asking us to play a video game, an old kart racer he likes. Yeah, we're playing Mario Kart 64. No, it's Mario Kart Double Dash. That's right, they play frickin' Mario Kart Double Dash. Remember, this is 2014, I want to say? 16? It's 2016, I think. Yes, and I will win it. Derek's dad cheerfully tacked that on. It couldn't be forgotten, clearly. Jorge could be player 4. Mrs. Suarez was the only one who truly kept her distance during the reconciliation between Derek and Nicholas, but now she joined the rest of the family. When she was close enough to you and Derek to whisper, she pressed a hand to the corner of her mouth and winked conspiratorially. I'll give Nico an unplugged controller. Derek grinned at that point and shifted into giving the longest strands of Nicholas's hair a friendly tug. But he didn't accept the invitation immediately. He included you in the discussion. Yeah, we have to play frickin' Mario Kart in this too. I forgot this was a thing. This moment, yeah. What do you think, Marina? This is like the longest Derek moment. I knew this and I just forgot. Like, so much stuff happened. Are you kidding? I think we should race. He nodded at you and turned to answer his father. Alright, let's race. Derek's mom encouraged you and Derek with her words and Nicholas with her hands, taking him by the shoulders. This time she wouldn't be letting him get away from her.
Go on.
Get changed. We'll plug it in so it's ready by the time you're back. Marina, you're welcome to use my or Mr. Suarez's pajamas if Derek doesn't have anything he can borrow. It'll be big, but it's better than nothing. Oh, they thought of something for us to have something to wear. That's cool. I like that. I don't know if we'd be the same size as Derek. We could probably wear a jersey or something, though. Thanks, Mom. Derek's mood continued to be buoyed by the support of his parents, and he left to go get changed while walking as lightly as he could in his wet clothes. So we probably, don't get a choice of this, but it'll be interesting to see what we get. You followed the watery footprints he left behind to dry off, too. He did a quick changing while you waited with a towel wrapped around you to minimize your clothes dripping. He came out of the room wearing black sweatpants and a matching top. Nighttime, Derek! Now that he wasn't spilling water or wherever he went, he offered to get you something to wear. Derek rattled off what kinds of pajamas his family had on hand. He apologized twice for the fact that he was so much shorter than you and had nothing you could fit in. Hey! Hey! There we go. Yeah, you got a tall girlfriend there, buddy. Not that she's his girlfriend at all, but you know. You reassured him that it wasn't his fault that you were the one who chose to get wet when you didn't have an extra pair of your own clothes. Ultimately, we get to choose. Which one of the parents' clothes we wear. And I guess if we were Derek's size, if you were shorter, you'd probably get to choose Derek's size clothes too. But we're going to borrow a button-down PJ shirt and pants of Mr. Suarez. It was extremely baggy considering the design of it was more proper looking than most other types of PJs. Considering the design of it was more proper looking than most other types of PJs, the melted way it looked on you was extra funny. What mattered most was that you were finally warm and dry. Your skin still had lingering goosebumps when you were dipping in the pool. Derek gave you a friendly thumbs up. He was nothing but polite about your outfit situation. He bundled up the pile of wet clothes and carried them off to the laundry. He spoke over his shoulder as he walked as fast as he could without dripping clothes, with dripping clothes in his arms. I'll get your stuff back to you next time I visit, okay? So we owed him money and now he owes us our clothes. We got this weird exchange thing going on with Derek. Don't worry, we still get to play Mario Kart this too. Okay. As promised, the Suarez's deep purple GameCube was fully connected with 4 controllers plugged in by the time you and Derek strolled over to the living room wearing your new digs. Yeah, it's clearly Mario Kart. Double Dash. They even call it the GameCube. They don't make up a game system in this. I love it. Also, dark purple was the standard GameCube color. Boom. I didn't own a GameCube. I played one in college for the first time with some pals. I don't own one now either. But someday, maybe. I love the GameCube, okay? Mario Kart Double Dash is the best Mario Kart ever made. Changed my mind. Seriously, get in the comments right now. Changed my mind. I like Mario Kart 8 too, but Double Dash is the best. A familiar shout filled the whole room. All was right in the world. They weren't gonna let you get away without that again. Yep, Nico, I'm here. Mrs. Suarez was on the carpet with Nicolas in her lap. She'd already passed him a controller, and he was having a blast passing the clicky buttons, despite the fact they did nothing except make a little noise. Jorge and Mr. Suarez took seats on the couch. He's not young enough to be that dumb. Jorge tucked himself closely against his father, so the two were only taking up one side. I feel like that's like a baby thing. He's supposed to be like 6. He's not young enough that he should fall for this. The other half of the couch was reserved for you and Derek. Derek dove into the spot next to Jorge. He got settled in nicely against the plush back of the couch and folded his legs up against the cushion. You got in the final place and relaxed against the armrest. That GameCube controller, though. That GameCube controller, though. Look at that. Man. Isn't that cool? Wait. Is this this is a bootleg GameCube controller. Because that's a C and a D. GameCube had different shaped buttons and they were X and Y. Yeah. Whoa! They have a bootleg GameCube controller. Fun stuff, man. Jorge passed one controller to Derek, which Derek gave to you. Then he handed over a second, which Derek kept. Mr. Suarez filled you in on a decision he had his second son had made.
What do you think?
Junior and I are on a team. You and Marina could play together. What do you think? What do you think? How did you learn to fly? Derek tilted his head your way. Lifted his shoulders and added onto his dad's briefing. It's a double racer. One drives, the other controls items. Yeah, it's Mario Kart Double Dash. We get it. Sounds cool. I love that game. You smiled understandingly. This is gonna be good. You shrugged acceptingly. I love that game. Me too. It's me and you then. The deal was sealed. Pacts had been made. Jorge perked up and shook Mr. Suarez's arm. Hey Dad, we're Team Suarez. Yes, we are. Derek's fingers were on the buttons, and he was leaning over his crossed legs in anticipation for the game to begin. He replied unbothered. You know Jorge is his dad's son. Cool for you guys. Team Foster is a force to be reckoned with. It's true. Marina Foster and Elizabeth Foster. All 4 players making up 2 teams chose their characters, carts, positions, and track set. On the track set. So, Marina would probably be Daisy. I mean, I like Daisy. She's my favorite, but Marina would probably be Daisy. Just saying. Hi, I'm Daisy! I think who else is in Double Dash that she might play as? She might play as, like... Boy. She might play as, like, a Bowser or something, but I think she would be Daisy, man. I mean... I'm a very strong Daisy, Lord. To start, Derek and Mr. Suarez were driving. You and Jorge had item on launching duty. 3, 2... The carts launched across the starting lines with both drivers getting an extra boost. Team Foster and Team Suarez were off down the colorful jungle road. There would be 3 laps before the race was over. Lap 1 was a frantic race for the top spot. So it's the jungle track. It's like the easiest track on the game, right? DK Jungle, I think it is, or whatever. Or is it Congo Jungle? I don't remember, but yeah, I'm a freak. I get it. The carts were neck and neck to each other, but over every hill and around every curve, neither getting ahead or falling behind. Attacks were constantly exchanged and buttons were pressed at rapid speeds. That included Nicolas as he watched the race and tried to use his controller the way everyone else was. You wondered which part of the game he thought he was impacting. By lap 2, Team Foster taking a strong lead. Almost nothing from the Suarez camp could reach your kart. Once he passed the line to start lap 3, Derek was cocky enough to bring out the smack talk. I thought you were gonna win, Dad! Mr. Suarez's expression was perfectly content. More than that, it was serene. And it was with that calm face Derek's father carefully reached across Jorge, and the blink of an eye locked his large hand around the comparatively tiny controller Derek had.
Ah!
The cart you and Derek shared went out of control, careening off the dirt path into a pit. You had to wait for the game to fish you out and place you back on the road. Team Suarez rolled right on past.
See?
I'm winning now. Derek's dad was boldly unapologetic. He grinned like a child and just found out you could get a hole in one at putt-putt golf if you just dropped the ball in the hole. Yeah. This guy's not afraid to cheat playing his kids. You're cheating now. Derek sputtered and with laughter made of equal parts amusement and disbelief. He yanked his arms toward his chest to fight for freedom, but Mr. Suarez's grip was unmovable. We're running interference, huh? From a distance, Mrs. Suarez mused over the situation that had begun to unfold. Her husband stole a look at where she'd been sitting. She was gone, leaving only Nicolas on the floor. Mr. Suarez lifted one thick eyebrow and pressed the other lower. He could only puzzle. I like his face here! Oh my god, look at this man! He could only puzzle over what it might mean until it all became clear by the world going dark for only him. Derek's mom had crawled over behind the couch, propped up from behind, and slipped her fingers under Mr. Suarez's glasses. He was caught completely off guard. Oh, I love this couple. I love this family. They're such a good family. His father started from the shock of surprise attack that wasn't committed by himself. Yeah, Mom! Derek hadn't gotten his controller back. Mr. Suarez was stubborn in his hold, but his dad was just as incapacitated as the driver. Yeah, Mom! An echo of Derek's cheer came from behind. All the excitement in the air had stirred a fire in Nicolas. He wasn't just playing with an off controller anymore. He crawled on all fours at a rapid pace until he reached out the couch and launched himself right at his dad's stomach. It was powerful enough that Mr. Suarez sprung forward, and Mrs. Suarez's hands were yanked off him. Oof! But Derek's controller was finally freed. Mr. Suarez had to let go of both controllers to catch a squirming child. Nicolas would not be contained. He climbed over his dad's shoulders and wrapped his arms around Mr. Suarez's face. In sweet justice, the Team Suarez cart flew off a bridge into the abyss below. Yeah, Nicolas! Jorge placed his own controller in his lap with a shake of his head and smirked. Team Suarez wasn't winning this race. Derek rolled his shoulders and poked a tongue out of the corner of his mouth in concentration. He was back on business. The Team Foster cart course-corrected and raced towards the finish line in the final lap. The youngest Suarez hugged all four of his limbs around his dad, even tighter from the thrill of seeing Derek speed his car around the track. Yeah! The items weren't needed now, but you're just as invested in watching your cart make the last stretch. No red shell at the last second, Gregorio. And Derek brought it home, crossing the finish line. We won. We won. Derek threw his fists into the air and pumped them back down in his chest and turned to you with a palm held out to you to smack. You clapped his hand, you hugged him, you gave him a thumbs up, you turned your hands to shyly cover your feet, you clapped his hand. The clear sound of your high five was a proper victory note. We won! Nicolas sent his arms up towards the sky, a perfect imitation of his eldest brother. Mr. Suarez used the opportunity to collect his son off his shoulders and placed Nicolas into his lap. He pet his son's hair and he laughed breathlessly but full of joy.
Okay.
I lost. Next race? Next race. This time Derek repeated the phrase, still raring to go. But that was naturally followed by the original copycat. Nicolas clapped gleefully and snuggled up against the seat in his father's chest. Next race! Jorge picked up his abandoned controller once more. His voice was quieter but no less sincere.
Yeah.
Next race. In all the commotion, you completely forgot you could have switched the driver role to take over for Derek at any time. Jorge could too for his dad, but you were glad it went the way it did. Team Foster got its win with the assistance of Team Pile drivers, Nicolas and Mrs. Suarez. And the game was just getting started. Next race. Race next? Okay. Now, race next. You couldn't help but breaking the pattern. It earned you some fresh laughter from the family.
Well.
Now this is a real party. There's still pizza in the fridge. Who wants leftovers? The suggestion of food riled Nicolas up even more. He clambered over his dad's shoulders for a second time, tugging on his beard and accidentally knocking his glasses off. Mr. Suarez wheezed out a chuckle. Nicolas stared out from over the couch into the kitchen. He wanted that pizza, but couldn't be the first to ask. I do. Pizza, please. I will have leftovers. You just said for Nicolas's sake. Up to the Suarez boys. Pizza, please. Pizza, please.
Same.
Me too. Jorge and Mr. Suarez chimed in their own request.
Sure.
Can I have some, Mom? I would like some pizza, my beloved wife who never turns against me. She snickered with a glint in her eyes. Of course, start the game. I'll heat it up. All four of the Suarez men spoke in unison. Thanks, Mom! Thank you too.
You're welcome.
The players all resumed their positions and took up their tools, slightly sweaty GameCube controllers. When the second race started, the grin on Derek's face was one of the most radiant you'd seen the whole day. His dad, mom, and brothers too really knew how to make Derek happy. That brought a smile to your face too. From getting a window into Derek's life and from what you knew from your own, spending every day with the same people could take a lot of patience, but there were a lot of perks too. Your time with the Suarez household ended with family, food, and fun. There wasn't much more you could have asked for. Phew! Made it! Yeah, that's the longest Derek moment, except maybe Boardwalk. But we'll see what happens, man, in those. But I'm glad to get one of these out of the way. I had time today, so we did it. We played, we were responsible, we visited the siblings. Thank you for coming along with me. We're going to do more of these, but this has been a super long video, and thank you for putting up with it. We'll see you next time.